All right, we are live, apparently.
We are live.
I'm never quite sure with this because you press live and then it tells you like you have to sort of make sure like 3 times, and then the same with the new end as well. Never quite sure what's going on. So I'm assuming we're live. Hi everyone.
I think so.
I hope you all had a lovely week.
Yeah. I hope it's been a good week for everyone else.
Yeah, pretty much just finished discussing how our weeks have been, and they've been fantastic. Yeah. Hey, Mr. Book. Good to see you again.
Yay.
Kimberly again. Hey, Kimberly and Morelli. Hey. Yeah. How has your week been, apart from a complete nightmare?
You know, it has been a week. I'm not sure good or bad, but it has been a week, let me tell you.
I'm sort of hoping my pumpkin doesn't set fire to my guitar, but we shall see. So if anyone sees any flames in the background, do let me know. It's not actually as close as it looks. It's actually slightly in front. I'm going to check that.
I was going to say, you might want to take a look
I'm going to check that 1 second. It's all right. It's all right.
It's all right.
It's definitely more in front than it looks. It appears that way, but it's a bit in front, so we should be all right. The lack of costumes, yes, sadly. You know, I fully was like up for getting a Space Ape costume, and I started looking up, but it just wouldn't have arrived in time, like all the bits and bobs that I was planning on buying to make a Space Ape costume. So I had to sack it off, sadly. But I was fully prepared to buy an ape costume. Like I found the ape costume, right, which was great and it was perfect. And then I was thinking loads of tin foil, like a NASA patch, and some sort of white clothes, and I could definitely have made a space ape. But unfortunately, the space ape costume wasn't on next day delivery, so it probably wasn't going to arrive.
That's okay. I think all is forgiven, considering the state of affairs in the world. I think we can forgive.
What are you doing for Halloween? Because it's Halloween tomorrow, isn't it? I mean, right now
it
in
is.
The UK.
For you, it's right now, but for us, it's tomorrow. Yes.
So did anyone actually have any plans this year for Halloween?
No, Halloween's canceled, dude.
Yeah.
No.
See, my Halloween is pretty much going to be like Animal Crossing. Like, I think, that's pretty much my Halloween is that it's fully taking part in Animal Crossing. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a guy's gonna go ghost hunting. Hey.
Oh, nice.
That's festive. Where do you get to do that?
Yeah.
Where do you get to go ghost hunting?
I know in previous years they did ghost hunts like Halloween kind of ghost hunts in Preston Manor, which is just down the road from me. And that's pretty cool. It's like this old haunted manor, it's supposedly haunted manor in the middle of a park. I've been there a few times before. That's always been fun.
Courtney said, if volunteering for a charity auction at a safe mask distance counts as doing anything for Halloween, it doesn't my book. It's more than what I'm doing.
It's more than me. So, yeah, it definitely is. You could have just made a tinfoil hat and come as a UFO follower. Well, so my space ape was going to be somewhere roughly in between that. Yeah.
Yeah, tinfoil counts for so many things.
My island is called the People's Republic of Chumbleton. And I am the great leader of Chumbleton. And I've got a nice communist style flag.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
I can't even. I just. Yeah.
It's the PRC.
You know.
Yeah. So I'm going to be doing Halloween on the People's Republic of Chumbleton. I watched Mystery Science 3K.
Oh.
Nice.
Oh my god.
I might watch Erie, Indiana this year. I might binge watching Erie, Indiana. It's like a kids program.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it was a kids program that was around when I was a kid, or actually I was a little bit old for it. I think it was kind of like early 90s, like Saved by the Bell, that sort of time. and it's got that same kind of like American TV Saved by the Bell sort of vibe. Totally different programs, but I don't know. In my mind, maybe it's just because they're from the same era, they go together.
Is it Indiana, like the state of Indiana,
Yeah, yeah,
like in the U.S.?
yeah, and it's kind of like almost like Monster of the Week, X-Files for kids. It's great. Surely I'm not the only person to have seen Erie, Indiana. Like I thought this was
I've
a
never
popular
even
thing.
heard of it.
That's I see now. I wonder how popular it actually was in America,
I've never.
or
I mean,
if it was one of those things that we got in England that was a kind of American cast off that no one watched.
that they
'Cause I just
said
assumed-
was really popular.
Well, yeah, I just assumed because it was American and it was in England, it was super popular. But maybe it was just like one of you guys' cast-offs. And whilst the poll's coming in for how many people have actually seen Erie, Indiana, I'll be back in 2 seconds.
It's a TV series. Okay. So apparently, Erie, Indiana was a TV series in 1991 and 92. Oh my God. See, the only area I remember was it. Yes, I've heard. Okay. See, I'm gonna lose points again. I've only seen like little pictures from like little animated things from Over the Garden Wall, which I love, but I've never seen it. So I'm gonna blame this on my daughter for not exposing me to that. So Ben was never seen again. I guess Erie, Indiana was a series in 91 and 92. There were a total of 19 episodes. Teenage weirdness investigator Marshall Teller adventures through his new small town home with his friends geeky Simon Holmes and mysterious Dash X. I've never heard of these people. Mary Margaret Humes, Julie Condra, and Omri Katz.
So
Have you guys
no one's
ever
ever seen
seen
it, but Over the Garden Wall is great. I've got that on
I've
Blu-ray.
heard that.
It's really cool.
I'm blaming that on my kid for not like exposing me to Over the Garden Wall.
So is it really like Erie, Indiana not popular? That's like destroyed
I
my
just
life,
read
my
them.
worldview.
I've just read them like the little IMDb synopsis thing and the stars. I've never heard of any of these people.
Really? Wow. It's why
Really?
like my whole life I just assumed it was like popular and it was just like, but it was clearly a cast off, wasn't it? You guys didn't want it, so we got it.
Let's see. Amanda S said that Omri Katz was also in Hocus Pocus, the one with Bette Midler. Is that right? Miana said, "Okay, Miana."
I watched it, but I'm
sorry
British.
if I butchered
Yeah,
it, but
yeah.
I was gonna say, well,
So Goosebumps. Now I didn't see Goosebumps, but I used to read Goosebumps books when I was a kid. Definitely had the Goosebumps books.
those were cute.
Yeah.
There was another one. God, I can't remember exactly what the name of it was, but Bunnicula. Did you ever hear of Bunnicula? Oh, it was great. It was a bunny that was a vampire, and he would sneak into the refrigerator at night, and he would drain all the vegetables of their color. It was great. So when they would wake up, they would just have like these blank white vegetables. It was really cute.
Was
it was a
it
cute
a
book.
cartoon? Or?
Yes, they read those books.
Oh,
No,
books.
they were just books. I don't know if they made them into cartoons, but they were just books from what I remember. But I remember Bunnicula, like distinctly remember that because my stepdaughter loved those books. It was great.
I'm depressed now that Erie, Indiana wasn't a thing, but never mind. Moving
Oh, I'm
on.
sorry.
So yeah,
I'm sorry.
have you
Well,
got any
you know
other
what?
traditions have you got anything that's like sort of Halloween tradition that you'll be doing or?
Me? No, because we're not allowed to. Because nowadays, with the whole toilet paper debacle, I guess we can't like TP anybody's house, so that might be considered criminal at this point.
See, I'm thinking like I'm going to watch like Erie, Indiana, and maybe some Twilight Zone or something like that. Twilight Zone's a little bit of a tradition, but I mean, how do you choose? Like, there's so many episodes. It's just like you just randomly pick a couple of Twilight Zone episodes and watch them, and then that's a tradition now.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
That's funny. I was gonna say maybe you'll I don't know. I don't even know like where to find Erie. Where did I find Erie, Indiana? Was it like Amazon Prime or something?
you should definitely watch it. It's amazing. It's made for kids, but it's like it's still watchable as an adult. It's not scary or anything, but I don't know. Maybe it's not. I'm questioning everything now. Maybe it's not watchable.
Yes.
Maybe it's nostalgia just pulling me through.
Have you ever done that? But Kimberly says you were talking about the Twilight Zone, and she said there's someone on the wing. Do you remember that? I specifically remember that episode. Like that episode, it just specifically sticks out in my head.
Oh my guy says that. Go on. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was saying, I'm a guy says, are there any haunted areas in your area? There are many. Sadly, I don't think I'll be getting out to any of them this year. But yeah, no, there are a few. I mean, I live right in the middle of the city, and they're all sort of indoors. But yeah, we got loads, and they usually have like really good ghost tours and like say like overnight ghost hunting stuff like that goes on this time of year with like a lot of the money going to charity and stuff. Like because a lot of them are in places that are owned by the city. So like the council will like open them up and like run a kind of overnight ghost hunt or something, and all the money will be like charity. They'll do that for like a couple of weeks on the run up to Halloween, and they'll run like 2 or 3 nights. But this year everything's not going, which is sad. Because yeah, you got Preston Manor, which is like
I've heard of that.
Most Haunted of all people actually did an episode there. And other than that, there is shed loads. There's like sewers. There's an old police station, an old dungeon, hundreds. But yeah, sadly nothing going on this year. But yeah, American Gothic, I've never heard of that, but it sounds like movies. I should.
Morelli says Night of the Demon, Horror Hotel, House on Haunted Hill. We were gonna watch House on Haunted Hill at one point. Nightmare Before Christmas is another one.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen that for a long time actually.
I've never seen it. Okay, so Jason was talking about the Twilight Zone. He said that where they think aliens land and then they accuse each other over and over of being aliens, and then they finally resort to violence, and you see the same lights land in another neighborhood and the same thing starts again. Oh my God, that's horrible.
Where is everybody? Is that the very first, the pilot episode? Is that the pilot episode where he wakes up and everyone's gone, and it turns out, wait, am I getting confused? And it turns out that it was a nuclear test site or something like that? Or am I mixing that up with 2 completely different things?
Oh no.
To Serve Man is great. That's the one where at the end they think it's to serve man as in like servitude, and it turns out that it's cannibalism, right? Or they're eating humans and it's a recipe book.
I think so.
Something along those lines.
The recipe book is reminding me. Oh yes, Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin. Did you guys get? You didn't get
Charlie Brown. Was that? It's sort of it was sort of a thing, but
it's
not
a cartoon,
massive.
But okay.
I mean, we had like Snoopy and all of that kind of stuff, but it was always kind of I didn't really get much of it in my childhood anyway.
Okay. Yeah, we there was always the Charlie Brown episode. That one, and I think it was the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and then I think we would watch like, I thought there was a Thanksgiving one for some reason, but we always watched It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
It's a cookbook. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That was the Twilight Zone, wasn't it? Yeah. From Dusk Till Dawn is another great film.
See, I think my problem is that I just don't have the patience to like sit and watch a movie. Is there a Thanksgiving one? I feel better now. So I haven't seen like a lot of movies, because if it's something I have to sit down and like focus on doing. That's really hard for me.
I
No, we haven't had Thanksgiving yet.
I haven't,
You're right,
like,
Courtney.
Yeah, I've got worse actually about that, because I used to be able to sit down and watch like horror films every night. I used, it was like a staple for a really long time. It was like every night before bed, watch a horror film for like years. But I haven't. I've
Really?
been kind of a bit like you saying, but like really hard to find myself having the time and the concentration
That's
at
so
the same time.
impressive.
So I haven't really watched anything like new for a long time.
I just found I've been looking for a certain thermos that I have, my like gray Yeti thermos, and I just looked in the camera and I see this thing either I'm like turn around and it's on the thing behind me. It's on my credenza. So I was like, oh, there it is. How sad. I've only walked by it 1,000 times.
See, I was going to say, like, we should do like a another movie night or something over Halloween.
Yeah.
But then now I'm looking at like all of the suggestions and stuff, and like obviously I'm coming up with things, and there's just, how would you decide on one thing to watch over Halloween? Because
Well,
everyone's got completely different ideas. We got like Simpsons episodes, that like all the Simpsons specials, and then on the other hand, we got like From Dusk Till Dawn, and then we got Erie, Indiana, or The Twilight Zone, and everything's completely different.
I know, but I think what we could do is like just queue up a bunch of different ones and then just kind of like run them and then just say, here's the order and this is about what time it'll start. And then just that way people can kind of pop in and out as they want to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
Mr. Book said it's sorry. Yeah, the first episode, it's the pilot episode. So it's not I thought it was nuclear testing, but it's not, is it? They're testing him for like isolation, space travel for isolation, and he's gone mad, and the whole thing's in his head. That's right. Ghostbusters. That's a film I haven't seen for a long time. Actually, I would like to watch that. The original
Ghostbusters?
The original Ghostbusters. Do you know what?
That was great.
I might watch that later in bed.
That was great.
That's one I haven't seen for a long time.
That's what I was thinking too. It's like M said, post a schedule in Discord and people can come when they want. They can just pop in and out. That's what I was saying. Just queue a bunch up and saying, okay, at 10 o'clock, this one will be in, and at noon, it'll be this one, and at 2, we can do that. And then they can just pop in and
Discord.
out.
Yeah, so we could do a vote and try and like squeeze it down to like 2 or 3 or something. And
yeah, we can try that.
Yeah, I'd be up for that.
The hunting. Yeah, we can figure that out.
Try and figure out some kind of classics that we should watch over Halloween.
Yeah, I think that, let's see. So that's true. Ghostbusters does hold up pretty well.
The second Ghostbusters reminds me of my 9th birthday, because I went to go see it on my 9th birthday at the cinema. So that's what it, like, for entirety now, all it reminds me of is my 9th birthday. So I think it was in the cinema.
Vincent Price is always amazing. Always.
Yeah, definitely.
The Mummy. The original Mummy, like the old gray, like black and white mummies, Mr. Book, or a different one? Like Vincent Price Mummy? And Vincent Price is just...
I've never seen the original black and white one, but I would like to.
Vincent Price is Halloween. It's like...
Yeah.
You just like you think Vincent Price or like Boris Karloff or, just like, boom, they're just right there. That's what makes it.
So if anyone's into like audio drama, there's a website which I'm going to kick myself for not now knowing the title of to tell everyone, but there's a website that has shed tons of old audio drama from like the 1940s up, basically. And there are loads and loads of like Vincent Price audio dramas from like the 1940s and stuff. And some of them are great because they got the adverts as well. So you've got like old 1940s and 1950s American radio adverts.
Those are the best.
Yeah, they're hilarious. And I think the one that stuck out like was I was listening to some Vincent Price like horror one, and it was like, this episode sponsored by spark plugs. It was spark plugs for cars, and it was like, these spark plugs will make your car like drive so much better. And it was like, they're spark plugs. Like, I'm not sure it's going to do that. And it was like these majestical spark plugs that will make your car fly, basically. But it was the 1940s, I guess, and they could get away with that. But
Yes.
I wish I could remember the name of that, because that now I'm like, yeah, I've told everyone that there's this great website and I can't tell you what it is. I think it was called, actually, Radio Echoes. I believe it's called Radio Echoes.
Huh. I don't know,
and
but
if you like audio drama and old horrors, then it's definitely the place to check out. Yeah, it is radioechoes.com. Loads
John
of
Doe
like
was
90.
saying
Go on.
anything old Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. Oh yeah, I mean for sure those are like the men right there. So let's see, what do we have? And you know what? American Werewolf in London has probably the best werewolf transformation scene in the history of Hollywood, I think. I mean, like as far as like realism and if that were to actually happen, you know.
I've never seen it, sadly. And I feel terrible because it's classic, isn't it?
It is. And you know what? Even if you just watch the transformation scene, it's amazing because you actually hear like the bones cracking and the sinew kind of ripping. And it's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Sponsored
I
by
feel like
Ovaltine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Find the missing letter to the to the password.
Yeah.
Was it the password, the super secret, like the mystery?
Yeah, I definitely recommend, like, if you're into like audio dramas, check out Radio Echoes. There's loads of amazing horror on there. From like, there's some modern stuff as well, but to be honest, I listen to it for the old, like the old 40s and 50s and 60s stuff. It's got this like really nice warmness to the sound, and it's just great. But yeah, anyway, so what are we doing on the stream today? We are reading more of listener urban legends, right? And we've still got a ton to chug through.
I know, but first, real quick. So we've got, and just because I'm going to like research real quick which ones I can find, and then I'll throw something on Discord and see what people really want to watch. So we've got American Werewolf in London. We've got Over the Garden Wall, right?
Oh yeah, that's great.
And then which one? Oh, Nightmare Before Christmas. You guys need to remind me of these, you guys.
I'm a Guy, which urban legends? There are a whole ton of urban legends from all sorts of people from all sorts of places. There's a whole bunch from Colorado. There is stuff from Texas. There's stuff from Tennessee, New York, Missouri, Michigan, Queensland, Australia, Canada. So yeah, all over again, and all sorts of urban legends that we just got people to send in.
Okay, so I've got American Werewolf in London, Over the Garden Wall, Nightmare Before Christmas. What do we say? The Original Mummy? Is that what we said too?
Oh yeah, definitely that.
And then what other ones? You guys need to tell me now or forever hold your peace. This is it. What do we say? Oh, Dracula, the original Dracula.
So this week's episode for Dark Histories, by the way, comes out on Sunday, and holy cow, hold on to your hats, because this is all original. Like, you never have heard this story before unless you read it in the papers at the time. And I tell you what, if Ashley Flowers does an episode on it, I'm going to take her ass to court.
I swear to God, if she does, you've got to let me do her. Like this time, you need to let me go after her this time.
If she does, I'll go after her myself.
Yeah.
But no,
last time you made me hold back, and I did.
It is a mental episode. And yeah, everything in it, completely original. We'll have never heard this story before. Talk about obscure. This is obscure.
There's no boundaries.
But my goodness, yeah. And I think that'll come out tomorrow for patrons. It should have come out already, to be honest, but I didn't get the editing finished today, unfortunately. But I will get it finished tomorrow after like lunchtime. So that's cool. Yeah.
Okay. So you guys have until like.
Wait, who's Ashley Flowers? Something. If you don't know who Ashley Flowers is, you're not missing anything in the world.
You're not missing anything. Don't even bother. It's okay. You are better off than like 90% of podcast listeners. Really, you are. But yeah, so okay. So before the end of the stream, you guys need to get me the movies that you want on the list for me to look up and find, and then I'll see what I can find, and I'll post a thing on Discord, and we can go from there.
Cool.
All right. All right.
Should we crack on with the Goat Man of Alton from Texas?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sure. You want me to start it? You want to start it?
All right, let's get this going. So first of all, we got from Historically Weird, sent this in.
Her name's Amanda.
Amanda,
Sorry,
Historically Weird.
That out.
The Goat Man of Alton, Texas. So Goat Man's Bridge is the common nickname for what is formerly called Old Alton Bridge. Am I saying Alton right?
Alton, yeah.
All
yeah,
right,
you're fine.
An iron truss span that once connected Denton, Texas to Copper Canyon. Many who have crossed at night have claimed to have seen the demonic figure of a man with a goat's head waiting for them at the other side. In 1936, Oscar Washburn purchased and settled a piece of land with his family. They began to make a name for themselves for their high quality of goat's milk, cheese, meat and hides. People in the area started to refer to Oscar as the Goat Man due to the success of his business. Not sure I'd be chuffed for that. When Oscar hung a sign on the other side of the Old Alton Bridge that read, "This way to the Goat Man," some people in the community thought Oscar had taken his success one step too far because it just so happened that Oscar was black. One August night in 1938, a group of so-called men belonging to the Ku Klux Klan gathered together and drove to the Washburn farm, shutting off their headlights as they approached. Using the cover of night to their advantage, they broke into the Washburn home, pulled Oscar from his bed, and drug him into the nearby Alton Bridge, using the light of their torches to guide their way. The lesser men fashioned a noose around Oscar's neck, tied the other end of the rope to the handrail of the bridge, and threw Oscar over as he pled for the safety of his family. Except something wasn't right. The night was silent, so there was no way they could have missed the sound of Oscar splashing into the river below as he reached the end of the rope. The rope that should have been taut was not. Puzzled, they thought Oscar had somehow slipped out of the noose before reaching the water, so they searched the riverbank for him, but they could find no trace of Oscar. Their bloodthirst not sated, they went back to the Washburn farm and, using the flame from their torches, lit the home on fire, burning it to the ground with Oscar's family still inside. Alternate versions of the ghost story have also circulated, including one that suggests that the bridge is actually haunted by Oscar's wife. Another story blames the work of Satanists. Most versions of the tale tend to include a warning that if you walk to the centre of the bridge and knock 3 times on its trusses, you run the risk of bringing out the Goat Man. Over the decades, there have been numerous alleged sightings of a ghost-like apparition with a goat head haunting the area. Some locals have claimed to see glowing eyes staring at them on the bridge, while others have claimed to hear splashing in the creek directly below, followed by unsettling laughter. Naturally, none of the ghost stories surrounding the bridge are based on any specific historical facts. Today, the bridge is only used for foot traffic, since a replacement bridge was constructed nearby. So that's kind of interesting in that it says that none of it was based in historical truth, but a lot of that is almost more realistic than a lot of urban legends, right? It's like you can definitely feel like that being rooted in like true historical facts. Because I mean, a lot of urban legends, they're like, okay, that could have happened. Maybe not. I've got to suspend disbelief a little bit. Do you know what I mean? But that one is like, whoa, almost all of that is like complete legit history. Like if you'd have told me that was real, I'd believe every word of it.
Agreed.
Like as a background story to a ghost story, I just think, yeah, okay, wouldn't even question that it might be true. It's quite interesting in that it has no historical facts at all.
Isn't that funny though? But it's something that just like it really could be based on historical fact. Now the thing is it's just like there's a lot of Bunny Man's Bridge or Crybaby Bridges across the US, and I'm sure maybe worldwide, I don't know, but there are also several Goat Man's Bridge, so
really?
It's like one of those. Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where, but really when you look at it and considering the place and the time frame that they were talking about, it's something that could very well have happened. I mean, I'm sure did, on many occasions for, different reasons. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you say about the
So-
Bunny Man, like Bunny Man legend is like, when you look at the history of the Bunny Man legend, it all starts falling a little bit apart, doesn't it? Like once you start kind of digging into like, and it gets to like, maybe this one year, like in 1930, sometime there was a man who sort of maybe put on a bunny mask, and it all gets a little
Right.
bit wishy-washy or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas that one is like, yeah, that could be firmly based on history. Like,
that one could be the real thing. Yeah. Yeah, you're looking at it. You're like,
always blame the Satanists. yeah. Definitely,
right?
especially if it's the 70s or the 80s. Yeah.
No, for sure.
Absolutely. I've seen enough horror movies to know a man in the mask in the middle of the road is never a good thing. Yeah.
Right. That's funny. The clown scare of the 70s. Oh, Lord. That whole clown thing.
When was the original It film made? Was that the 70s or the 80s? That's probably the 80s, wasn't it?
I don't know. You know what? Big surprise, guys. I never saw it either.
I'm trying to think like what it sort of looked like. 'Cause I haven't seen it for a while, but I'm thinking probably like late 80s, maybe early 90s. Like trying to think of the hairstyles that are in it.
Wow. Yeah, because let's see.
The 90s, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because this one said, because 2017 is the remake, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying. I would have watched it a bit later than that. It would have been late 90s, but yeah, it was 90s. Yeah, apparently. I'm trying to think of the hairstyles, but I can't really remember any. So
1990, it said. Well, wait, that was a miniseries.
Oh, so it was a 2-part TV sort of film.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what it said.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
November 18th and November 20th, I guess.
All right. So anyway, I wondered if that was linked to any way to the original 70s clown scare. What was the 70s clown scare?
Oh, it started. I mean, yeah, clowns are just freaky, but people would call the police and say that, they saw a guy standing or saw a person in a clown costume, like on the edge of the woods or, lurking about, and, people were screaming. And so it was just all this just horrible made up stuff. It's like, if they weren't careful, someone was going to get shot. depending on what area of the US they were in. That's not what you want to do. You just don't want to jack around like that. It's just not good.
Yeah, I see. I always find like it's funny how Halloween is actually such a like getting back to Halloween a little bit. But Halloween is such a big thing in America when there's so many people with guns in their house. It's to me that seems like you're just playing with fire there.
Yeah, you just don't do it. There are just certain things you don't do, and that's one of them. It's just like jacking around during hunting season. You don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
You just don't. I mean, not if you value your life.
Oh, okay. So Jason said first reported in 1981 in Brooklyn, Massachusetts. Children said the men dressed up as clowns had attempted to lure them into a van. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
It's funny because I've never had like a thing about clowns. Like I've never really been bothered.
Clowns.
I've never been bothered by them. But what is it that? Okay, so what is it that you hate about them?
What is it that I hate about clowns?
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of different things. I think one, it's the fact that like it's not just so what you see is not what you get type of thing, but it's like they're because their faces painted on, obviously, with the clown paint and all. It's just so, I don't know. It just like takes on an element that kind of takes. Because that's the only expression they have, so you can't really like read into them.
Yeah.
Because that's all that there is. Yeah. So you can't place any sort of judgment or anything on them. And the fact that they like don't talk.
Yeah.
It's kind of creepy.
Yeah. So I will say that I've never had a like fear of clowns, but one of the scariest dream that I can remember in like my recent memory had a clown in it, and it was terrifying. And I kept looking behind me, and it was following me up the street. But it wasn't moving, But every time I turn around, it was just as close to me as it was before, and its face was like a glitch, and it would like almost like glitch out and change, but it was always a different clown face, and that was freaking me out. Anyway, John Wayne Gacy, and the original It book. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Jason Jacobs said, phenomenon of range from Stephen King's book It and the crimes of serial killer John Wayne Gacy. Yeah, and then of course, obviously the moral panic of the time.
Yeah. Oh, wait, and see, here we go, Paul, with the real info. Clowns are derived from people dressed as the dead. Oh, the Greeks called them Carians or Charis. I know I'm saying that wrong.
I think, yeah.
Paris. A similar group still show up at Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Very interesting.
That's weird.
Huh.
It's weird how they've gone to be like something you'd have at a children's birthday party. From
right?
Yeah.
Right? You go to that and it's just it doesn't add up. It's not good.
I had a fear of store mannequins. That's a common thing, isn't it? I've heard that before. I've definitely heard of people having like fears of mannequins. And it's that the uncanny valley kind of vibe, isn't it? Like the uncanny thing of, I mean, I'll say like I don't have a fear of mannequins, but being a hairdresser, you get those fake heads, right? And the amount of times where I've had a fake head in my house and it's just unnerved me because out the corner of my eye, you see something that's the perfect, like anatomically shaped like a human, and you know that it's not a human and it shouldn't be there. Like that, it's slightly unnerving. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just weird. It's just a weird thing.
Twilight Zone about mannequins. There is, yeah, and one about waxworks as well and wax people.
Really?
Yeah, like they go to like a wax museum.
Oh, interesting. I've never seen that one. Not that,
Yeah, Ishmael's going as well. Isn't there a Twilight Zone about still mannequins? Yeah.
Yeah, Rod Serling really did do a number on us.
Yeah.
That's for sure. He definitely did. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I remember going to the circus as a kid and all of a sudden it's like, you're watching, because they had all, the three rings that were always going on all at once. And then all of a sudden I remember just seeing like this thing falling from the top and then all the lights just going out completely black. And it's because one of the tightrope walkers had fallen like to their death. Like in the middle of the circus. So yeah, the circus probably brings back a little bit of trauma. But that's all good. So
your mum, Ali Youssef said, I won't have a fake head in my place if I was paid thousands. Creepy as fuck. Yeah. I used to have to carry him around, and I used to have it used to be so funny because I'd have him in my bags and stuff, and just like have these like tote bags that were kind of human head shaped hanging off my shoulder and stuff. And, the funny looks you'd get when you get on the bus and you open your bag and you like pull out like you're looking for your keys or something, and you pull out like by its hair like the human head whilst you're looking around. Yeah.
Oh my god! I can just see. Why can I just see that?
But there's something strange about mannequins. Like there really is. Like I don't want to go into it, but too much. But like with my fake heads as well. Like what do you do with them when you're finished with them? I used to like store them under the stairs because I felt weird about what I should do with them because they're so human-like. But then you'd store them under the stairs and you'd find this like weird like bundle of human heads under your stairs, and that would be weird as well. It was just weird. And they've all got like badly cut, cropped, shaved heads and stuff as well, where you've been like training like cutting hair. So yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, no, I remember that whole thing with all of a sudden he's like, I don't know, all the heads underneath in the closet under the stairs. And we're just like, oh,
Yep.
okay. Ben's got a bunch of heads in a closet under his stairs.
Yep.
We were a little worried, but it's okay. It's all good. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Yeah. What was the name of the ventriloquist? The guy that used to take the ventriloquist on, and this is like an old TV show like Jack Benny, and it was like black and white, but he had that one dummy. It was like a ventriloquist dummy that he had that was really, it's very distinct looking. I can't remember. He had like a little bow tie and a suit. The ventriloquist dummy did, the dummy, but he's terrifying.
So we got more stories. Should we get on to some more stories?
Yes, we do.
What are we going for
There's
next?
a couple short ones. Let's go to Colorado. There were a couple submitted by Mr. Book from Colorado. So one is Riverdale Road, and it says, the 11-mile stretch of Riverdale Road in Thornton has countless stories revolving around the supernatural and paranormal, like demons, a ghost lady, the jogger of Joggers Hill, Native American burial ground curses, witch hangings, a phantom Camaro, and more notably, it is said to be the site of the gates of hell. So definitely not a place for the faint-hearted or easily scared, but if you're among the very slim who are brave enough to journey along the stretch of road or up to the crumbling ruins of a great mansion and into the gates of hell, more power to you. Yes, Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy. That's the freaking doll. And speaking of the phantom Camaro, he says, back in the 1970s, a black Camaro was cruising along the road and ended up crashing, ultimately killing the driver. Nowadays, if you come across a black Camaro while driving down Riverdale Road, I highly suggest you turn back, especially if said Camaro has a busted headlight. That's when you hightail it out of there. And whatever you do, don't try to race it because, as the myths claim, if you race the phantom Camaro, you'll only be racing towards your death. Dun, 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 dun.
The Phantom Camaro or whatever, like even like I feel like I might have heard of that before.
Really?
Yeah, isn't a Camaro like the old ones with that? They had like eagles on their bonnet and things like that. Am I thinking the right
those
thing?
Those are the Thunderbirds.
Oh, okay.
The Thunderbirds had one. I don't remember if that the Camaros had one. It's just not something that's.
So that's interesting. Ishmael Wolfsbane said, I always thought the gates of hell were in Florida. Well, they probably are.
Oh, no, don't worry. Don't worry. There's plenty of gates. There are plenty of gates.
They probably are. They're probably everywhere. Like that's the beauty, isn't it? Like, you know, like some of these are like deadly local and that's where they only appear like in that one place. But others are deadly local, but then they appear deadly local to all other places as well.
Right. Yeah. Paul, no, the Trans Ams. That's what it was. The Trans Ams had the big
yeah.
Firebird type bird. That's right. Was there Campy Dracula show in the 90s? Yeah, Mr. Book says the gates of hell are everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, if you need a gate to get there, I'm sure you can find one pretty much anywhere. He said the Phantom Coach is an old British legend, Jason says. Have you heard of that? Is that the one you saw?
It's very similar. Like I haven't heard like that exact legend that is. I wouldn't know, but like Phantom Coaches are definitely a thing. Like they're quite a common ghost story.
Ben saw a Phantom Coach.
I saw a Phantom Coach. Yeah, that was weird.
Yes, definitely.
So, should we go on to Mr. Book's two others? We got Joggers Hill in Colorado.
Yeah.
Where legends say that a jogger was struck by a car while running along a dirt road. Any normal person would get out and check on the jogger, but then there wouldn't be a legend if that had been the case. The jogger's ghost now haunts the road, seeking revenge on anyone who dares get in the way. If you're interested in seeing this jogger for yourself, here's what you got to do. Park your car at the top of a hill, turn off the engine and wait. You should hear the sounds of footsteps behind you, slowly getting closer and closer with each breath. Many people have claimed that this jogger has kicked and pushed on their cars, whilst others say that there have been handprints left on the outside of their windows. But whatever you do, don't let the jogger reach the driver's side of the car. That's a really popular one, isn't it? Finding like handprints on the outside of your car or whatever, like a bloody handprint. That's the really famous one, isn't it? Where you park
That's
up your
one of them.
car
Yeah.
and then there's like a bloody handprint.
Always.
And the ghost lady of Colorado. It said that the man who built and lived in the great mansion along the 11-mile stretch lost his mind one night and burnt it to the ground, killing his entire family as they slept. Screams can still be heard among the ruins. The ghost lady, also known as the woman in white, has been seen among the grounds. She's presumed to be the wife of this man. Many people who have come into contact with this woman in white have tried to help her, but she merely continued on her path in silence. A single glance in the rearview mirror tells these folks that she's disappeared completely from sight. Now the question is, where'd she go? The ghost lady isn't entirely innocent though. Some legends say that she'll try to lure unsuspecting individuals into the gates of hell. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So you can get an escort.
Women in white everywhere.
Everywhere. Women in white. Actually, La Llorona is a little bit different, but she's probably wearing white too. All these women wear white. It's like,
yeah.
It's like there's some sort of dress code. You know, if you're gonna haunt, you need to wear white.
I mean, you get like the women in white, the women in black, and the women in red are like the big three, aren't they, Shirley? Like,
yes. Or I've noticed too in Europe, it's always the gray lady.
The gray lady, yeah.
I've noticed, the Lady of the Lake, yeah. But I've noticed that in Europe, it's always the gray lady.
Definitely the gray lady.
I don't know why. Is it because you guys always have like rain, so the skies are gray, so maybe her dress is
don't know.
dingy? I don't know.
I find it weird because I always feel like the grey lady, like, so you sound like the women in white and you definitely get like an image of a ghost, but you get the grey lady, that could just be someone who's about 80 or 90 years old where they're just like grey. Like, you know, their skin is grey and their hair. So I find it almost more scary because then I feel like there's a physical element there. Just some grey person.
Yeah. Or Mr. Book said, yeah, or the lady in black. That's true too. There's always a lady in black.
The Woman in Black is a cracking film that we could put on that list. The original 1990s film.
Yes.
Okay. Which is actually just last week, I think, came out on Blu-ray. They just like got
Did it really?
Just got distribution rights sorted out for it after all of these years, and it's just been it's just recently released.
Yeah, and your mom said the weeping woman too. Yes, always weeping or wailing. I've noticed that.
Grey means to fit in, like fit in and never be seen. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I can see that.
Come.
So talking about Ladies of the Lakes, anyway, and La Llorona, because La Llorona is a kind of Lady of the Lake, isn't she?
Sorta.
Kinda stands around in the water drowning children, right?
Yeah. I like that.
Should we go for the Lady of the Lake from Dallas, Texas?
Is that where? Oh yeah, we do have a Lady of the Lake in Dallas, Texas. Yeah. Let's do
by
it.
Leslie. So this was submitted by Leslie, who, the Lady of the Lake from Dallas, Texas. One of the best-known Dallas legends is the Lady of the Lake, a ghostly figure who haunts White Rock Lake Park. A woman named Anne Clark wrote the account of the Lady of the Lake legend, published in 1943. The Ghost of White Rock was included in the Texas Folklore Society's publication, Backwards to Border. In this accounting, a young couple parked on the shore of White Rock Lake. When they switched their headlights on, they saw a woman in white coming toward them. A young girl dressed in sheer, wet, white dress. She spoke in a faltering voice. "I'm sorry to intrude, and I would not under any other circumstances, but I must find my way home immediately. My boat overturned. The others are safe, but I must get home." She climbed into the rumble seat, saying that she did not wish to get the young lady wet. She gave them an address in Oak Cliff. When they asked her for directions, they turned around only to find their rumble seat empty and wet. The couple went to the address she gave them. A sad man met them at the door. The man told them, "This is a strange thing. You're the third couple who has come to me with this story. 3 weeks ago, while sailing on White Rock Lake, my daughter drowned. In 1953, a similar but much more detailed account of the Lady of the Lake legend was included in Dallas author Frank X. Tolbert's book, Neiman Marcus, Texas. No, Neiman Marcus, Texas, the story of the proud Dallas store. Is Neiman Marcus a place?
It's a store, like a retail store, clothing store.
Neiman Marcus, maybe? Texas, the story of the proud
Neiman.
Dallas store. In this account, a beautiful blonde girl appears on the road near White Rock Lake. Mr. and Mrs. Guy Malloy, directors of display for the Neiman Marcus, spot her standing as if she had just walked up from the beach. Upon seeing the girl standing in the beams of their headlights, Mrs. Malloy said, "Stop, Guy. That girl seems to be in trouble. She must have fallen in the lake. Her dress is wet, yet you can tell that it's a very fine dress. She certainly got it at the store." Meaning, of course, Neiman Marcus.
She got the dress at Neiman Marcus.
The friendly girl asked them to take her to an address on Gaston Avenue in nearby Lakewood. She didn't offer an explanation for her state, and the Malloys were too polite to ask. Her long hair began to dry in the night breeze. Mrs. Malloy was now sure the girl's dress was from Neiman Marcus. It's definitely there. The girl got in the back seat of the two-door sedan. When the car started, Mrs. Malloy turned up to discover the girl had vanished. The only trace of her was the damp spot on the back seat. Puzzled, the Malloys went to the address she provided them. A middle-aged man met them at the door with a 25% off voucher for Neiman's Marcus. Shop at Neiman's Marcus. He informed them that the blonde daughter, who wore nothing but Neiman Marcus clothes, drowned 2 years before when she fell off a pier at White Rock Lake. That, to me, sounds definitely as if, in 1943, that store made that up.
That sounds like such a marketing ploy.
Yeah, doesn't it? That was definitely made by the store. It came from 1943, did they say? Or 1953? Yeah, that sounds... Like just like one of those bad radio adverts that I was saying earlier, like a 1953 advert.
Yeah, that totally sounds... That's
it
great.
It definitely sounds like a radio commercial before one of those ghost plays.
It really does.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing. That's funny. Oh, that's so funny.
The thing is, I've been listening to loads of those old stories, like I say, on that those old radio echoes, loads of old horror, and that's exactly the sort of thing that they would like be like, this show is sponsored by, and then they would go into like a little bit, like a skit kind of thing, and that is exactly it.
that one made me laugh. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Neiman Marcus. This is a total ploy.
Is that still around?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's still a store. It's a higher end store.
So, whilst Hallie's fighting with their dogs, we're going to go straight in with another one. And this one was submitted by Haley Hill, and it's the Anson's Ghost Lights from Anson, Texas. So, located just 20... Do what, sorry?
I said at least I muted it first.
Located just 20 miles north of Abilene, Anson, Texas, is home to 2,400... No, sorry, let me start again. Located just 20 miles north of Abilene, Anson, Texas, is home to 2,430 residents. Its main claim to fame might be as the birthplace of singer Jeannie C. Riley, whose one-hit wonder, Harper Valley PTA, is a country classic. Oddly enough...
I know that's...
Oddly enough, Anson might also have served as inspiration for the popular movie Footloose in 1987. The town still had a no dancing law on the books, and the story of this law and the efforts to change it were chronicled in the book No Dancing in Anson, an American story of race and social change by Ricardo Ainsley. Legend has it that the lights are the lost soul of a pioneer woman who lived in Anson in the 19th century. She wanders the area in search of her sons. The boys were killed one night after being dispatched to chop wood. Her sons knew that if they should encounter any danger, they must flash their lanterns 3 times to summon help. Now, when adventure seekers park at a certain spot and flash their car lights, the mother's ghost arises with their own lantern and goes to seek her lost sons. Hoping to see the lights for yourself, it's best to try it on a warm, cloudless night. Head east on 17th Street until you come to the graveyard on the outskirts of Anson. Then take a right-hand turn down the dirt road beside the graveyard. Upon reaching the crossroads, turn and face the main road, then park, wait in silence a while, and flash your headlights 3 times. If you're lucky, or should I say unlucky, you just might see the lights come floating down the road in your direction, easily mistaken for a flashlight, or you might glimpse it drifting like a ghost among the trees. That was a good one. I like that.
Yeah. And it's crazy because, like, the whole ghost light thing, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
And it happens, I've noticed that it also happens to a lot of people talk about ghost lights or strange lights in conjunction with seeing other things, like in conjunction with UFO sightings or Bigfoot sightings, or just.
There's a really interesting ghost light story that I was going to do for Dark Histories, but I couldn't find enough about it from like the 50s, and it was coming from a bell tower in some church, and no one could ever work out what this light was, but they said it looked like demons' eyes and like floated on the horizon and stuff like that. And some people thought it was like the reflection from a bell, and other people thought it was the reflection from the walls that had been recently painted and stuff, but they never found out what it was actually from. What's this?
No, I'm just laughing at Jason Jacobs since said there's a great book about urban legends called The Choking Doberman and Other Legends. And I was just telling him we did The Choking Dog last week.
Yeah, that was a great story. That's probably my favorite one so far, actually. I kind of had never heard it, and it totally suckered me as well. Like, you know, I was fully was like, got one. I was
fully
like,
wrapped up into that one.
Didn't see that twist coming, kind of thing.
I know. Yeah, Jason Ben really liked that one. Poor little Duke. Hey, he did his job.
That was a good one. Yeah, no, I like that. I can't believe I'd never heard it before, because it was a banger.
That was funny.
So we should just start plowing through some of these, shouldn't we? Really?
Yeah, probably so. Okay, so we got that one.
We're up to Chattanooga, Tennessee. No submitter name.
Oh, yes. You want me to do Chattanooga?
Yeah, do you want to?
Sure. You know, I had just seen it here.
Is it Chattanooga?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right, Chattanooga. Let's see. The person who sent this didn't put a name, but if it's yours, just say it's mine. As part of the New Deal program, dams were built on the Tennessee River and its tributaries to control flooding and provide electricity. A series of 3 dams were built on the Ocoee River. The dam farthest downstream is Ocoee 1, which forms Parksville Lake. The Tennessee Valley Authority operates the dams, and periodically they have to send divers down to inspect and work on the dams. TVA has had its issues with employee retention, as periodically a diver will report seeing catfish the size of a Volkswagen Beetle at the base of the dam and immediately tender their resignation. A background on Chickamauga. During the Civil War,
should I take over?
No, I got it.
Okay.
During the Civil War, Chattanooga's rail line and location on the banks of the Tennessee River made it the ideal location to begin any campaign into Georgia. In the summer of 1863, the Union Army of the Cumberland, around 60,000 men under the command of William Rosecrans, began to move on Chattanooga from Middle Tennessee. Rosecrans sent a part of his army to feint like they were going to cross the north of the Chattanooga, while the rest of the army crossed to the west and spread out moving south. Braxton Bragg, which a lot of people don't realize that's what Fort Bragg is named after, was the commander of the 65,000-man Confederate Army of Tennessee, and he fell for the ruse. After realizing that the northern crossing was a diversion and most of the Union Army had already crossed the river to the west, Bragg redeployed across the border into Georgia to secure his supply lines, abandoning Chattanooga. Rosecrans thought the Army of Tennessee was demoralized and retreating, so they went into Georgia. After almost losing an isolated division at Davis's Crossroads, Rosecrans began to regroup his army and head back to Chattanooga. In mid-September, the Confederates attacked across the West Chickamauga Creek, aka River of Death.
Dun, dun,
Just the River
dun.
of Death. Dun, dun, dun. In the 2-day battle that followed, the Confederates would rout 1/3 the Union Army, but an impressive rearguard action on Snodgrass Hill by George Thomas's 14th Corps covered the retreat to Chattanooga. Combined casualties of the battle were 34,624, the largest number of casualties, second only to the Battle of Gettysburg. The battlefield has been preserved and is now a park. When fog starts to rise from the woods and creek, the park assumes a very eerie atmosphere. It's easy to see how someone with an overactive imagination could mistake the sound of twigs for the sound of muskets, or see the form of a soldier in the fog. One phenomenon that is not as easy to explain is that of green eyes. Sightings of green eyes are about as consistent as those of Spring Hill Jack. Legend has it that soldiers from the 154th Ohio Regiment saw an animal with glowing green eyes feeding on the dead from the first day of battle. The sightings have continued to this day. Some say they see more of a humanoid silhouette, but the glowing green eyes are the only detail people remember.
So do you know what the thing about that one is? I'm really surprised that it took us that long to get one about that was based in the Civil War.
Right?
Because I thought there would be hundreds, like a lot more.
You know what I found though with the Civil War is they're not necessarily like legends or ghost stories, but a lot of it is like around Gettysburg and stuff. A lot of it is just kind of recurring visions or recurring sightings of like just what do they call them? Just the kind of that just repeat over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's not like a specific legend. It's just constant, like hearing, the gunfire or just the constant repetitive cycle of the ghosts going through.
Like the kind
or,
of stone tape theory kind of vibes. Yeah.
Exactly. Residual. Thank you, Morelli. God, I couldn't remember the word. Yeah, just a bunch of residual type hauntings, but not a lot of real like specific type of legends.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Did
you see what she said?
And
Bigfoot is often described as having glowing green eyes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I should imagine
Bigfoot.
there is a good book about the myths, legend, and haunts that pertain to the Civil War. Yeah, there must be hundreds, mustn't there? There must be like a fat book, I should imagine. But
so many.
So your mum said Ben stopped doubting your pronunciation. Yeah, see, that's a bit of a bugbear. Like when you make a podcast, like you have to be so careful because it's one of those things that can really chuff people off if you get pronunciations wrong of place names, especially if it's like American place names, because obviously I'm not American. So then you get people. That's same as like when you get American podcasts saying things like Worcestershire or whatever.
Or the River Thames instead of Thames.
Yeah, the River Thames. Yeah. So I when I'm sort of recording, I try my best to look stuff up that I doubt. But obviously, you don't have that that privilege when you're doing it live. So.
Well, no, and you know what? Here's my thing. My thing is always, before you start complaining, try and do your own podcast and let's see what happens.
Worcestershire.
People just don't get it.
Leicestershire. But yeah. So should we just
go for it, Ben?
Submitted by Angelina, Bennett College, Millbrook Village, New York. So we got while there are some Hudson Valley, New York legends that have been immortalized in literature and film, like the legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle, I thought I'd be less boring and mention a couple that I grew up hearing about all the time. I went to elementary and high school in Millbrook, New York, which is a tiny village about 15 minutes outside the city of Poughkeepsie. Poughkeepsie. Ah, right, okay. Why do I know this? I know Poughkeepsie from something. Is it
probably
Oh no, it's not
It's from London, I
Groundhog
think.
Day, is it?
No,
But,
that was a different.
yeah. Anyway, every day on the way to school, we would pass the "Welcome to the Village of Millbrook" sign and Bennett College. Bennett College, or what remains of it, has stood in ruins since before I was in elementary school in the late 90s, early 00s. So naturally, as kids do, we went looking for info about the school. It was once a hotel founded in 1893 and then a school for women in 1907 until it closed in 1978. We would always hear stories about how girls practiced witchcraft and spiritualism during their times at the school, but there was one story that always made the rounds. The story is that one girl, or several, it always changed depending on who told it, were victims of suicide whilst at the school, and that their spirits haunt the grounds and the ruins to this day. I've even heard that because these girls supposedly practiced witchcraft, that they inadvertently summoned an evil spirit that possessed them and made them jump from Halcyon Hall. I could never find any evidence of any suicides on the premises, but the stories remain. My younger cousin, who goes to the school in Millbrook now, still hears these stories, especially around this time of year. It was set for demolition in 2012, but from what I hear, residents would rather it be left to decay on its own. Another legend that I grew up hearing about is the ghost of Sheehan Hall at Morris College. Shelley Sperling was a college freshman in 1974 and was a resident of Sheehan Hall. She was fatally shot by her ex-boyfriend, Louis O. Acevedo, in the cafeteria, and her spirit still haunts the building. While I didn't go to Morris College myself, a few of my friends did and would mention sightings, weird noises, or moving objects. Haunted schools, man, always remind me of the Doppelganger episode now.
Oh, Emily
Sage.
Sage.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because when I read this one, it reminded me of when Em went to in her first year of university when she was in the dorm. She was all freaked out, and she sends me a text and tells me that this is so typical of what they do to first years. That the other girls were telling her that there's this one room in the dorm that, some girl hung herself and da 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 da. And I'm just like, nobody hung themselves. It's not haunted. You're fine. I promise. It's just you're a freshman and that's what they do to you freshman year.
Yeah.
It's like, I promise. Are you sure? I'm like, oh, good Lord. So I did a Google search, did a screenshot and just sent it to her. I'm like, you're fine. But it's something that they do, just like, or the haunted bathroom,
Yeah. And when I was at school, we had ghosts in my school for sure that were once you got past sort of the second or third year, you didn't believe it, but it became a story that you told to first years every time. And I guess that's how it kind of propagated forever, because all the older kids were always kind of over that now, but they always told the younger kids. But we still, I don't know, I say I didn't believe it, but I'm not sure. We still kind of, there was, so in my school, we had this next to the school, just slightly off the grounds. My school was massive for starters. It was about a 20-minute walk across. From the far end of the games fields to the other far end of the school, and just off of the games fields was this old derelict house, and that became the haunted house of the school, and so everyone knew. There was so many stories around that house of it being haunted or child snatchers or the owners actually lived there. It looked derelict, but it wasn't. There was someone living there. And that was always the same sort of three sort of themes to the stories that would always be told to the first years, whether, that was either ghosts, a child snatcher that had kind of from the 70s or whatever, or that the owner was actually living in it and he was a weird child molester or whatever, and he lived in this decrepit old house. But yeah, always kind of reminds me of Harry Potter, the Screaming Shack. Always kind of reminds me of that.
Yes.
That in my mind, I always picture it exactly like this house from my old school.
Yeah.
But
yeah, totally.
But I guess that probably a lot of schools have got very similar kind of, again, like urban legendy kind of vibes with any kind of like decrepit house near a school.
I think so. I mean, I think it's just something, you do to torture torture the kids.
Yeah,
Who
absolutely.
knows?
Mr. Book, yeah, you're totally welcome. Thanks very much for sending them in because, if no one sent them in,
Yeah.
we'd bugger all to talk about. So thank you very much.
Exactly. So I know what we'll do. Let's hop over to Kansas City. The body in the mattress, who Jeremy sent this over. And he said, everyone has heard the scary story of the couple who stays in a motel, and where that motel is changes based upon where you are at the time of the story. And their room has a distinct bad odor, which later leads to the discovery of a dead body hidden in the mattress. The discovery most commonly be made after the couple has slept on that bed for at least one night. Well, it's not just a story. In 2003, in Kansas City at the Capri Motel, a body was actually found in the mattress 3 days after the victim had stayed in the hotel. Now, interesting enough, it's not just the story in 2003. There was a story in December of 1982 in North Bergen, New Jersey. There was one in 1987 in Rosedale, Maryland. Mineola, New York in 1988. Virginia in 1989. In March and August of 94, there was one in Miami and one in Fort Lauderdale. June of 1999, there was one in Atlantic City. In 96, there was one in Colorado.
And these are all just
Boulevard.
variations on a theme, basically.
Well, no, these are all real.
Oh, really?
These are all real cases.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And then on 10th of July of 2003. Yeah. Well, just like the last one, on July 10th, 2003, a man checked into the Capri Motel just east of downtown Kansas City and began complaining about a foul odor in his room. Management told him nothing could be done about the problem, and he spent 3 nights in his room before checking out because he could no longer stand the smell. When the cleaning staff came in to make up the room on the 13th of July, they lifted the mattress and underneath found a man's body in an advanced stage of decomposition.
I guess it's kind of a common thing, and then the stories leak out and sort of become urban legends over time. Like once more gets added to them and stuff. Because I actually, if you think about it, so many people pass through hotels that it must be quite common. So it's probably not much of a story, but over time, like bits get added on here and there, and they become like actual kind of legendary stories of like, a guy that just died in his room and was found 3 days later. There's nothing really too weird about that. But if you add like a bit on here or a bit on there, suddenly it becomes like a haunted urban legend story, right? I guess.
Yeah, but it's like all of those ones, those were actually like true stories. All of those dates that I read off. Places, yeah, I mean, those were real. Just like the one in Maryland in 87, an unidentified man died of a drug overdose after one of the 34 balloons of heroin he had smuggled by swallowing them burst. His partner in crime stashed his body underneath a bed in a motel and left. And the body was found when the room was rented to guests 3 days later.
Oh. So Miana Target said there was no corpse in my mattress. Can I get a refund? Yeah. I like the fact that, so Ishmael says that his old school in Salem had a haunted dorm, and Kimberly had a haunted dorm, and Mackenzie Drake had a haunted dorm. Like everyone's dorms basically were haunted.
Yeah, everybody had a dorm that was haunted. I just think it's so funny. It's like, and it's always your freshman year you find out that it's haunted,
Yeah.
Always. So do you want to hop out of the country real quick?
Yeah, let's do that. Should we do the Queensland one?
Yeah, go to Queensland.
So we got, this was sent in by Brian, and we're actually going to be out of America for the first time this evening. Australia's Bermuda Triangle, Black Mountain, Queensland, Australia. So Black Mountain is a little known landmark with a dark and mysterious history, if you believe the legendary stories. Tucked away in far north Queensland, the mountain is known by traditional indigenous owners as Kalkajaka, the place of the spear, and was the site of a bloody battle between warring ancestral clans and Dreamtime spirits. The landmark's also notoriously dubbed the Bermuda Triangle of Queensland for the stories of early explorers, horses and cattle that vanished into the boulders without a trace, never to be seen again. Located 25 kilometres from Cooktown, the imposing mountain range consists of massive granite boulders which stack precariously on one another. It's an important meeting place for the eastern Kuku-Yalanji Aboriginal people and is the source of many Dreamtime stories. Aboriginal tales describe the mountain as a haunted place, home to various evil spirits, demons lurking within. European colonists became part of the mountain's folklore when they arrived in the area. Stories abound of people, horses, and whole mobs of cattle disappearing into the labyrinth of rocks, never to be seen again. Beneath the outer boulders lies a maze of passages and chambers, enticing to explorers of unusual places or those wishing to hide away from the pursuers. In the inky dark interior, sheer drops, pockets of bad air, or unexpected encounters with snakes or bats could easily cause panic and injury to intruders entering that eerie underworld. People have been injured and have died trying to climb Black Mountain. There are legendary tales of people, horses, and mobs of cattle vanishing into the labyrinth of rocks of Black Mountain without a trace. Pilots report aircraft turbulence and magnetic effects, along with reports of loud bangs and mourning cries, have added to the Black Mountain's mystery. Geologist Gavin Deere lives near to the foot of the mountain and does not believe in the myths, which he described as ridiculous, having conducted his own tests. While he agrees it's very mysterious and does have a special power, he believes it's just a mountain full of boulders. Is that not in a Murakami novel somewhere, buried in some, like a novel that's a Murakami novel has played on that theme and sort of incorporated it into one, I'm sure, because I feel like I've read that before from something else, but like definitely fiction.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's interesting though. I mean, it's like, where are they all going then? I mean, a cow is, it's hard to just like lose a cow.
Or lose a whole mob of cows in your.
When you're talking about a mountain that's basically boulders, not just that, but I don't know how much you know about cows, but it's not easy for them to like. Well, it's not real. If you ever look at the pictures of the mountain, it's not really easy for them to like climb onto that. Cows aren't the most, flexible creatures. So it's like, where are they all going? I don't understand. I don't know where they're all disappearing to. It just doesn't make any sense.
It's weird how there's not more actually about those kind of Bermuda Triangle areas. So like really you've only really got like the main one, which is like the Bermuda Triangle, I guess that one. Right. And you've got like, I suppose, modern urban legend and folklore, you've got Mel's Hole, which is kind of a similar thing. Have you ever heard of? So yes. I guess that's kind of a modern interpretation of that vibe, isn't it?
Did you listen to them do it?
Mel's Hole.
This Paranormal Life did it like earlier this week.
Oh,
or last week.
I didn't. I haven't heard it yet, but I will have to because Mel's Hole is a great story. Classic Art Bell, man. Classic Art Bell.
Oh, you've got to love it. Isn't that the same one where he said that you could hear like the screaming of hell or something like that?
Mel's Hole starts off quite simple, and then it over a matter of years, it gets really out of hand and crazy.
Yeah, it gets really bad.
Yeah, starts getting like Men in Black and FBI and the American government getting involved and all sorts. But yeah.
The Bridgewater Triangle, that's over off the East Coast, right? Kind of like northeast, I think. Maybe. I can't remember exactly, but I think it is. Anywho, if you're hearing the sounds of hell, I think you should see a doctor. Yeah. Probably so. Probably so. All right. So let's see. This sounds scary. That's fine. Yeah, no kidding. United States.
Falling off the cliffs nearby. Nice.
That's terrifying. This one was actually submitted by two people, by Jenny and Natalie, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it.
Was it? Do you mean like was it
then
two people separately that submitted the same story, or? Oh wow, okay.
Same. Yeah, so I kind of like put it all together.
Yeah.
So this is Detroit, Michigan, and it is the legend of the Nain Rouge. Hailing from Detroit, Nain Rouge means red dwarf. Most descriptions include his small stature, blazing eyes, and sharp teeth. Some say he's a devilish-looking imp. Other accounts have been known to report the Nain Rouge to have red or black fur covering an animal's body, but with the face of an older man with blazing red eyes and rotten teeth. Lovely. His presence is said to presage misfortune in the city of Detroit and can be referred to as the downfalls. According to legend, the Nain Rouge is said to appear before disaster strikes. Sightings of the Nain Rouge have been reported all throughout history, right before various notorious disasters or distress. The legend of the Nain Rouge is reported to have begun back in 1701 when Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac founded the city of Detroit. According to legend, a fortune teller told Cadillac that he must appease the Nain Rouge in order to have peace upon himself and his new city. However, Cadillac instead asserted his dominance over the being by smacking it with his cane and shouting, "Get out of my way, you red imp!" That works. After this, a string of unfortunate events befell Cadillac, including being charged with abuse of power and being reassigned to Louisiana, briefly being imprisoned in France, and eventually losing his fortune. While this is the widely accepted origin of the legend, there is also some speculation and skepticism. The earliest written record of the legend was depicted by Marie Caroline Watson Hamlin in Legends of Le Detroit, published in 1883. Which is 180 years after Cadillac was cursed by the creature. However, there's a legend of a sighting as early as 1763. Although he has not been spotted in a while, this urban legend still has deep roots in the city and is celebrated every year in a parade event called Marche du Nain Rouge. This Mardi Gras-esque event and parade first began in 2010 and takes place every spring, the first Sunday after the first day of spring. The purpose of the parade is to chase the Nain Rouge out of the city. At the end of the parade, everyone gathers to hear a political-style speech given by a designated Nain Rouge character, where he announces what destruction he has planned for the city of Detroit that year. The crowd erupts in a chorus of boos and jeers of hatred toward the dwarf character. However, not all believe the dwarf should be banished. On the other hand, there are support groups for the Nain Rouge who appear at the event who call themselves Friends of the Nain Rouge.
This is mental.
I know. They believe banishing him from the city is actually the cause of misfortune brought on by the initial banishment of Cadillac, according to the legend. These groups work against the jeers of the crowd and try to convince them to keep the Nain Rouge within city limits. At the end of the rally, an effigy of the Nain Rouge is destroyed, and he is officially banished from the city for another year, and the crowd goes wild. Spectators are encouraged to come dressed in a different costume each year so that the Nain Rouge will not recognize those who have banished him from the city in prior years, so he cannot enact personal vengeance or revenge against them. Whatever the Nain Rouge may be, real, paranormal, or fake, the urban legend is quite a unique one. With Detroit's storied history, it is kind of nice to have an outlet to blame when things go south. Now that Detroit is in an economic upswing and revitalization is happening each day, is it merely coincidence that no sightings have been reported in recent years?
Absolutely not. That's a really common thing, actually, that like urban legends and like things like that are always dragged out when people are having like difficult economic times and things like that. Traditions become like heavily leaned upon. It's really interesting, like causation or correlation rather between like economic struggles and a leaning back on like old traditions. But yeah, that's mental story and sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, right. The whole party thing sounds
it sounds great.
Yeah, like you've got like these two sets of people, you know.
Yeah, like
banish him for. I'm surprised they don't chase him out with like torches. pitchforks. But it's true. It does sound a lot like the Mothman.
Yes,
The
yeah.
Mothman is the same, a harbinger of doom type of thing. But yeah, I think that's funny. I thought it was great.
Yeah, no, that sounds
thought the
like a
name-
lot of fun.
It reminded me of the Wicker Man. I don't know why.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
the whole burning of the Wicker Man at the end, the effigy.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
But that's interesting,
Oh
that
my
whole
God.
correlation at the end there. They mentioned about like when things are like when you're going through like a difficult economic period or a difficult social period, traditions. I don't know why we do that. Like if it's like looking for comfort or something like that.
I don't know.
Looking for like some sort of nostalgia or like harkening back to when times were better, so traditions become like popular again. I don't know, but there's definite correlation there, and it transfers sort of from weird stuff like that to quite boring stuff. Like a lot of people say like the rise of like traditional barbering, which happened about the time of the financial crisis of 2008. All of a sudden, like traditional barbering became like really popular, and it's this whole like like that there's a link there that people say the two were linked. So they even like things like fashion trends and stuff like that linked to this kind of harkening back to tradition in times when things are perhaps not their best. But yeah, Kimberly says something you can control. I think that's probably a lot to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that talk. Shall we get to is it the last one? This long legend of the Mad Trapper.
No.
Should we save that to the end because that's a long one?
Yeah. Read the Spook Light from Joplin.
Ah, okay, yeah. Where was that? Oh, there it is. The Spook Light from Joplin, Missouri. So this was sent in by Jeremy. And it says, the Spook Light, also called the Hornet Spook Light, Hollis Light, and Joplin Spook Light, is a light that appears in a small area known locally as the Devil's Promenade on the border between southwestern Missouri and northeastern Oklahoma, west of the small town of Hornet in Missouri. Even though it's named after a small unincorporated community in Missouri from which it is most commonly researched, the light is most commonly described as being visible from inside the Oklahoma border looking to the west. The spook light is commonly described as a single ball of light or a tight grouping of lights that's said to appear in the area regularly, usually at night. Although the description of the light is similar to that of other visual phenomena witnessed throughout the world, the term spook light, when standing alone, generally refers to this specific case. Numerous legends exist that attempt to describe the origin of the spook light, one of which involves the ghosts of two young Native American lovers looking for each other. Back again to the Native Americans, right?
Always.
According to most accounts, it has appeared continually since the late 19th century, although it was generally not well known to anyone but locals until after World War II. Some date the first encounters with the light back to the Trail of Tears in the 1830s. However, the first documented sighting is generally accepted to have occurred in 1881, although some report sightings as far back as 1866. The earliest published reports was in 1936 in the Kansas City Star. In 1946, the US Army Corps of Engineers studied the Hornet light but could not find a cause for it. In their words, it was a mysterious light of unknown origin. Early residents of the area reported seeing lights in the woods over their land or even in their yards. During the 1960s, there was a general store in Hornet that gave out information about the light to sightseers. It included a spook light museum. There have also been various establishments along the Missouri to Oklahoma state line that served a similar function, but they've since closed. During the 1960s and the 70s, the roads where the spook light usually appears were often packed with parked vehicles and people hoping to get a glimpse of the mysterious light. Aficionados say the best chances for spotting the light occur after dark when parked on Oklahoma East 50 Road, 4 miles south of the three-state junction of Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma in Ottawa County, Oklahoma, and looking to the west. One must sit very silently. The light has been seen in backyards of the area and has been spotted both near to and far away from sightseers. Its colour is also not consistent. Some eyewitnesses report a greenish glow, whilst others describe it as orange, red, yellow, or even blue. It's almost always said to be in the shape of a bull, although some say it more resembles a camping lantern, travelling a couple of feet off the ground. Again with the weird lights, man. Like, so this is a really interesting that there doesn't seem to be any different colors and it doing different things, but yet it becomes like a singular story, and a singular event. But yeah, there's that reminds me again of that one that I was saying, from the church bell tower that was around for years. But it's weird because there's seemingly no basis, but I guess people see it and go, no, I've seen it now. But there's so much to kind of explain away that stuff, because you even have what's that famous UFO case in England? That kind
Rendlesham Forest?
Rendlesham. That kind of reminds me a little of these spook lights and things like that, when they say they saw the lights on the horizons and stuff. And it turned out that actually there was a lighthouse there, that could easily be explained it. And you see all these spook lights and stuff, and you wonder how much of it is just like something like a lighthouse, and that coupled with some weird kind of natural phenomena that can definitely have done it. But they're interesting. I like spook lights.
I've heard a lot of them, though, described as not necessarily like as small as a firefly, but a lot like that. And in multiples. So you'll see like multiple ones at the same time. And, so it's not like it could come from a lighthouse or, something like that. It's just, which is really interesting, because it's like, well, then what is it? If it's pitch black and you're in the middle of the forest and all of a sudden you're seeing these glowing things flying around. And some people say that they even like change colors. It's really interesting.
Well, I find like stuff like this interesting anyway, because even if you do see like natural occurring lights in that sort of time, like it's hard sometimes if you're in the dark to judge perspective and stuff. So that always makes the stories quite interesting as well, because that really like throws people anyway. So I think that can account for a lot of the reasons like why they change color and stuff like that, because like you get that kind of naturally occurring like flickering of lights changing color and stuff, like when you're in the pitch dark. But hi, Amanda. Sorry to be late to the party. So LA of me.
That's funny. Okay. So we're going to go to no live stream or show would ever be complete without going to Stull, Kansas for the Legend of the Stull Cemetery.
I don't know if I know this.
Oh, Ben. Okay.
Submitted by Brian.
So far removed from the story of the... I'm going to exercise you in a second.
So the dog doesn't want it to happen.
Yeah. Far removed from the story of The Exorcist, tucked away on a rough county road between Topeka and Lawrence, is the tiny town of Stull. Not unlike the town of Sleepy Hollow, Stull is one of those towns motorists can miss by blinking. Stull and Sleepy Hollow have another thing in common. Both are haunted by legends of diabolical supernatural happenings. The Stull Cemetery has gained an ominous reputation due to urban legends involving Satan, the occult, and a purported gateway to hell. The rumors about the cemetery were popularized by a November 1974 issue of the University Daily Kansan, the student newspaper of the University of Kansas, which claimed that the devil appeared in Stull twice a year, once on Halloween and once on the spring equinox. People soon said that the cemetery was the location of one of the 7 gates to hell, and that the nearby evangelical Emmanuel Church ruin was possessed by the devil. Others erroneously claimed that the legend was endangered by the killing of Stull's mayor back in the 1850s. Of note, Stull was never organized as a town, so it never had a mayor. Most academics, historians, and local residents are in agreement that the legend has no basis in historical fact and was created and spread by students. In the years that followed the publication of the University Daily Kansan article, the legend persuaded thrill seekers to visit the cemetery, and they would claim that weird and creepy events such as noises and memory lapses happened to them, leading to further speculation that the town was haunted by witches and the devil. It became a popular activity for young folks, especially high school and college students from Lawrence or Topeka, to journey to the cemetery on Halloween or the equinox to see the devil. Many would jump fences or otherwise sneak their way onto the property. Over the decades, as the number of people making excursions to the cemetery grew, the graveyard started to deteriorate. This was exacerbated by vandals. To combat this, the county sheriff office patrols the area around the cemetery, especially on Halloween, and will arrest people for trespassing. Those caught inside the cemetery after it is closed could face a maximum fine of $1,000 and up to 6
That's
months.
mad that they've had to go that far. But
and you know what's funny is, I've heard that they're serious. Like, you cannot go there on Halloween or you will get thrown in jail.
Wow. I tell you what,
Like,
if I've learned anything from these urban legends being sent in, is that basically students have got a lot to answer for.
Right?
They've all made up by students.
It's like, we raise them, we send them to college, and then look what happens.
They make up stories about ghosts and legends.
The moment you turn away,
if it's not the halls of residence being haunted or their dorm rooms being haunted, it's bloody cemeteries.
Yeah, bloody cemeteries. That's for dang sure. Oh, God.
Sometimes the manifestation of the devil haunting is very silly. Why would the devil want to erase students' memories? Exactly.
But apparently there are 7 gates to hell, so that would explain it all.
Oh, is that why there's so many?
Apparently so. Apparently
the pressures
so.
of academic life. It makes us feel better when we flunk out a term. We blame it on the Devil Gates graveyard.
Oh my God. So this should be the last one.
The Legend of the Mad Trapper.
Yeah, I think so.
Should we end on a big one? End on a strong note. So this one was submitted by Brian, and it's The Legend of the Mad Trapper from the Northwest Territories in Canada. Okay, someone is going to need to explain to me very quickly, what are the Northwest Territories? Is that like Alaska?
They break up. They break up into territories, like provinces and stuff.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
That's why.
It's pretty. I'm guessing that the Northwest Territories are kind of rurally, like quite wild, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I'm only going on that based on the American, like North American Northwest is very rural and.
As you read this, you'll find out.
Right. Okay. So the place is Aklavik, a tiny village in the Mackenzie River Delta in the northwest corner of Canada's Northwest Territories. The man called himself Albert Johnson. He was dubbed the Mad Trapper of Rat River and was the fugitive in the most bizarre and dramatic manhunt in Canada's history. To this day, little light has been shed on the real identity of a strange man who was finally gunned down in the midwinter snows in Eagle River, Yukon, on February 17th, 1932. To appreciate the degree of superhuman endurance, tenacity, cunning, savagery, desperation, mystery, ingenuity, and suspense associated with the death of Albert Johnson, you must first appreciate the circumstances and conditions under which the events took place. The entire drama was played out in the killing sub-zero temperatures in the midwinter darkness above the Arctic Circle in the Mackenzie River Valley. For 48 days, a lone man withstood all attempts of a combined force of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, assisted by Indian and white trappers, to apprehend him for wounding a police officer. The chase encompassed 240 kilometres, or 149 miles, whilst Johnson travelled on snowshoes and broke trail. His pursuers used dog teams and were further aided by an aircraft and radio communication. The forest and tundra of Arctic Canada is one of the most demanding environments on Earth. This is the homeland of the Lushu Indian. The forest-dwelling Lushu, whose livelihood depends almost entirely on hunting, fishing and trapping, are acknowledged to be the most skilled hunters in the Arctic forests. The inherent dangers associated with semi-nomadic existence in this remote and demanding Arctic environment make such high levels of skill tantamount to survival. To survive in the high Arctic forests, a white man had to be able-bodied, keen of mind, and experienced in the ways of wilderness living. Albert appeared in the Fort McPherson area on the Peel River around 1931. The taciturn stranger with the cold, pale blue eyes was soon regarded as an unsociable loner who preferred his own company and the solitude of a cabin or bush camp in an area where friendly and social interchange was the basic fabric of life. The cold-eyed stranger's surly silence in this already silent and lonely land made people uneasy. A Mountie was obliged to question Johnson as a result of a formal complaint lodged against him by two Lushu trappers. It was ascertained that Johnson refused to acknowledge or say a single word when the Mountie visited his lonely cabin on Rat River. When the same officer returned with a search warrant several days later, Johnson, still without saying a word, shot and seriously wounded the constable. On the third occasion, a heavily armed posse laid siege to his cabin for 3 days. They used dynamite to blow the roof off and dislodged the trapper from his cabin to no avail. He fired round for round and for the third time forced his attackers to retire for further supplies and plan a subsequent assault. 1 second. Radio reports of the confrontation between the taciturn trapper and the famed mounted police force of Canada's Arctic had reached the outside world and fired up the interest of North Americans. When a larger and better equipped posse was again ready to confront Johnson, it was learned that he had abandoned his damaged cabin at Rat River. He had disappeared on foot into the frigid white world of the vast Mackenzie River Valley. The wilderness-trained Mounties, the Lushu and white trappers lived by sight, sound and a sixth sense. Even the seemingly indefatigable and super-elusive Albert Johnson must leave tracks in the winter snows. A week passed before the Mounties found a faint trace of the trapper's trail and resumed pursuit. He was found, a gun battle ensued, and a Mountie was shot dead by Johnson. He then scaled an ice-covered canyon wall and disappeared once more into the twilight of the Arctic wilderness. It was around this time that the famed pioneer bush pilot, Wat May, joined the manhunt with his ski-equipped aircraft. The aircraft not only ferried supplies to the pursuit parties, but was instrumental in spotting the fugitive's trail from the air. Meanwhile, Johnson had somehow managed to cross the forbidding Richardson mountain range using a caribou herd and a blizzard to obliterate his trail. It was a fantastic feat for a man travelling alone and on foot, in spite of the odds against him. It was almost by accident that he was encountered, surrounded and eventually shot to death on the Eagle River 40 days after the initial confrontation on Rat River. Defiant to the last, he seriously wounded yet another Mountie before he died, although called upon to surrender a score of times by the law officers. Johnson was never heard to utter a single word during almost 7 weeks of siege, pursuit and battle. No one knows who he really was or where he came from. He was a silent man in a lonely land. The rifles and snowshoes of the mad trapper of Rat River remain on display at the RCMP Museum in Regina, Saskatchewan. I'm not even. Saskatchewan. That is mental. That reminds me a lot of like almost a more extreme version of that guy we did who was in Tasmania recently. It was Alexander Pierce. It's very similar, like one guy. Yeah. But it's a very similar story of like one guy just kind of surviving in the most extreme conditions and for well beyond what you should be able to survive in.
Right? I mean, come on. Yeah, I don't blame him. I mean, your mom said, yeah, he's literally done with everybody. I don't blame him. I mean, I'd want to go off the grid too, but geez.
But no one knows who he was. So no one knows who that guy was at all. It was just
yeah,
mad.
Nobody knows if that really what his name was, I guess.
He didn't speak to anybody in 7 weeks, just shot them.
Right? Yeah.
You can imagine if that happened these days, the 24-hour news cycle would have an absolute nightmare because they'd be like, what can we say about this person? He hasn't even spoken in 7 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, he hadn't said a word. He hadn't said anything to anybody, which was, part of the problem, because I guess upon, its ability to kind of like depend on one another when you're in that type of an environment. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. Madness.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And on that note,
Yes.
I think it's time we call it
On
a
that-
day, because I am absolutely shattered.
Yes.
And
I just want
go on.
I just want to say thank you guys, like, to everybody who sent in a story. I mean, we really weren't sure what kind of response we were going to get, so we planned on, one live stream, and we had some extras to kind of fill in just in case we didn't get it.
Yeah. I remember when we said about it, we were like, oh, if no one sends anything in, we'll have to kind of like look some stuff up just in case. Yeah, we didn't need those, did we? Thanks very much, everyone. It was amazing. Great response. And if you've got like ghost stories, I saw Miss Poop Dragon earlier said about, which is a great name, by the way, mentioned earlier about having like ghost stories and stuff. Like, definitely save them up for the Christmas campfire episode, because I'll be doing that again this year, which is now like an annual tradition. So yeah, definitely save them up. But obviously, I'll mention that more in the episodes towards Christmas. But yeah, no, thanks everyone for coming along, and thanks everyone for writing your stories in. It's been a blast.
Absolutely.
I've had really good fun. It's exactly what I was after, was like trying to get like a broad like net of these stories from all over. Was really fun, and they were really broad. They went from being like ghost stories to kind of the classics, like handprints on cars, to like that last one, which is like kind of quite sort of historical and normal, really, in a way.
Right.
I mean, I say
Still
normal,
kind of a
but
legend.
yeah.
Nobody really knows.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So no, it was definitely great. Maybe we should do this an annual thing.
Annual
kind of
Halloween thing, yeah.
Yeah, like Courtney says, an awesome annual tradition. So, yes, and I will get on the movie list, and I'll post that.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do like let's have a Halloween movie watch.
Heck, why not?
Wicked. All right. Well, thanks very much, everybody. Happy Halloween.
Have a good. Same to you. Same to all of you. Stay safe, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And enjoy.
And
enjoy.
If you can't go out, enjoy Animal Crossing like me. My Halloween's going to be on People's. You're welcome to the People's Republic of Chumbleton anytime. Yeah. Thanks very much, everybody. I'll see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.